The message arrived at 0347 ship time, when most of the crew aboard the Soul's Pride was still sleeping. Park So-young was the only one awake in the communication room, watching the green lights that showed data flowing between star systems. She had been doing this job for 8 years now, making sure messages traveled safely across the galaxy. The ship was quiet except for the soft humming of the computers. Ambassador Kim Dae was probably in his cabin, reading reports about trade, agreements, and diplomatic meetings. The Soul's Pride was heading to the Vega system for another boring council session about mining rights or shipping routes. So-young liked the quiet night shifts. No politicians asking her to send messages every 5 minutes, then her screen flashed red. An encrypted message was coming through the priority channel, the kind they only used for emergencies. So-young sat up straight and started the decoding process. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. Entering her security codes, the message was from Earth, from the Human Colonial Defense Department. So-young had never seen anything from them before. Usually her messages came from civilian departments or trading companies. She frowned and opened the file. What she read made her stomach feel cold. All human diplomatic and technical personnel are to be immediately informed of Galaxy Council Resolution 2847A. Past an emergency session 0300. Standard time. Resolution classifies all human citizens as technologically dependent servants under Section 15 of the Colonial Management Act. Effective immediately, all human settlements are to be reorganized under direct alien supervision. Human technical teams will be relocated to designated service worlds to continue infrastructure maintenance duties. So-young read it again, then a third time. The words did not change. She looked around the empty communication room. The computers were still humming softly. The green lights still showed messages flowing between thousands of worlds, all carried by networks that humans had built and maintained for over 300 years, technologically dependent servants. That was what the Galaxy Council called them now, not citizens, not allies, servants. She kept reading. Human worlds designated for redistribution among founding council species. Relocation to begin within 30 solar days. All humans currently serving in technical positions will continue duties under alien supervision. Compliance is mandatory. So-young's hands were shaking now. She had grown up on New Bizen, a human colony with 3 million people. Her parents lived there. Her little brother was studying engineering at the university. The message said there, world would be redistributed to another species. She needed to wake. Ambassador Kim Dae right away. Kim Dae was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. Even when So-young knocked on his door at 4 in the morning, he did not look angry. He put on his robe and listened while she explained about the message. His face did not change expression, but his hands tightened on the datapad as he read. Have any other ships received this message? He asked. I don't know, sir. The communication logs show it was sent to all human diplomatic vessels and technical stations across the galaxy. Kim Dae walked to his window and looked out at the stars. They were traveling through empty space between systems, far from any planets or stations. The nearest human world was 6 days away at current speed. So-young, I need you to check something for me. Can you access the technical specifications for our communication networks? The deep system files, not just the user manuals. So-young was confused but did as he asked. She brought up the files on her portable computer. Kim Dae studied them for a long time, scrolling through pages of technical data that she did not understand. Sir, what are you looking for? Something I hoped we would never need to use. Kim Dae found what he was looking for and smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Protocol 7. I've never heard of Protocol 7. Most people haven't. It was built into every system we ever designed, hidden deep in the security codes. Every human technician knows about it, but we never talk about it. We hoped the galaxy would treat us fairly and we would never need it. Kim Dae went to his secure communication terminal and entered a long series of codes. So-young watched as he composed a short message. The garden is closing. Water the flowers one last time. Sir, I don't understand. You will Kim Dae sent the message to every human technical team in the galaxy. Wake the senior staff. We need to have a meeting. An hour later, 5 people sat around the table in the ship's conference room. Besides Kim Dae and So Young, there was Captain Lee Junho, Chief Engineer Yoon Nari, and Science Officer Choi Woo Jin. They all looked tired and confused. Kim Dae explained about the Galaxy Council's resolution. He watched their faces change from confusion to anger to fear. 300 years, said Captain Lee. For 300 years, we've been their communication backbone. Every message, every trade order, every emergency call goes through networks we built and maintain. And this is how they thank us? They think we're just good with computers, said Engineer Yoon. They don't understand that we didn't just learn how to fix their networks. We designed them. We built them from nothing. What's Protocol 7? Asked Science Officer Choi. Kim Dae looked at each of them carefully. When humans first started building the Galactic Communication Network, some of our engineers were worried. What if the alien species decided they didn't need us anymore? What if they tried to take our technology and kick us out? So they built, in a safeguard, continued Engineer Yoon, understanding now, every system we ever built has security protocols that only humans can access. If we needed to, we could lock down the entire network. That's exactly right. Every relay station, every communication hub, every data processing center, they all have deep security systems that require human biometric authentication. The aliens never knew because we never used them. Captain Lee leaned forward. You're talking about shutting down galactic communications. I'm talking about protecting ourselves. The Galaxy Council has decided we're servants, not citizens. They want to take our worlds and put us to work under alien masters. But they forgot something important. What? We're not just the repair. Crew for galactic civilization, we built it, we maintain it. And if they don't want us as equals, they can see how well their great galactic society works without us. So Young felt excited and scared at the same time. What will happen to all the species that depend on the networks? They'll learn very quickly how much they need us. Trade will stop. Military coordination will be impossible. Governments won't be able to communicate with their colonies. The galaxy will go back to the way it was before humans arrived, isolated worlds with no way to talk to each other. And then they'll negotiate, said Captain Lee, understanding the plan. Then they'll negotiate as equals, not as masters talking to servants. Kim Dae stood up. I won't order anyone to do this. It's dangerous. Some aliens will be angry. Some might try to force us to fix the networks. But if we stand together, if every human technician across the galaxy follows Protocol 7 at the same time, they won't be able to stop us. One by one, each person at the table agreed. So Young went back to her communication room and started sending messages to human technical teams across the galaxy. Not the official diplomatic channels that aliens monitored, but the private networks that connected human communities. Within hours, the message had reached thousands of engineers, technicians, and communication specialists. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you treated the people who connected your civilization as disposable servants. In 6 hours, every human-maintained system in the galaxy would require biometric authentication from its original builders. And those builders had just been classified as property instead of people. The Great Silence was about to begin. Lee Minho stood in the control room of Relay Station Alpha 7, watching the massive screens that showed data flowing between 43 different star systems. The station orbited Proxima Centauri and was one of the biggest communication hubs in the galaxy. Every day, billions of messages passed through the quantum processors that hummed quietly in the levels below. Min-Ho had been running this station for 12 years. He knew every circuit, every backup system, every emergency protocol. The alien species who used the networks never visited places like this. They just expected their messages to work, like turning on a light switch. His personal communicator buzzed. The message was from Ambassador Kim Dae, but it was not the usual diplomatic report. The garden is closing. Water the flowers one last time. Minho felt his heart beat faster. He had heard about Protocol 7 during his training, but hoped he would never see it used. He walked to his private office and unlocked the emergency files on his computer. The real emergency files, not the ones the Galaxy Council knew about. Protocol 7 was elegant in its simplicity. Every human-built system had deep security locks that required biometric scans from the original human engineers. Fingerprints, eye scans, voice patterns, genetic markers, all stored in quantum encryption that no alien species had ever learned to break. The locks had always been there, hidden in millions of lines of code. The aliens who benefited from human networks never looked that deep into the systems. They trusted humans to keep everything working, the way someone trusts their water to flow when they turn the tap. Minho called his senior staff into the control room. There were 8 humans working the current shift, plus 16 aliens from 6 different species who handled specialized tasks. The aliens had been hired 5 years ago when the Galaxy Council decided that humans needed supervision in their technical work. Everyone listen carefully, Minho announced. We need to begin emergency maintenance on all primary systems. This will require temporary shutdown of external communications while we upgrade security protocols. Supervisor Grekta, a tall reptilian Zalarian, looked up from his console. How long will this maintenance take? The Council is expecting the quarterly efficiency report tomorrow. The maintenance will continue until we receive new operational parameters from Human Colonial Administration. Minho replied calmly, I do not understand what new parameters. Minho had worked with Grekta for 3 years. The Zilarian was not a bad person, just someone who followed orders without thinking much about them. Like most aliens, he assumed humans would always be there to fix whatever broke. Political changes require updated security measures. I'm sure the Council will explain everything soon. While Minho talked to the alien supervisors, his human staff began implementing Protocol 7. They moved calmly through the station, entering authorization codes and activating biometric locks on every major system. To the aliens, it looked like normal maintenance work. Chief Engineer Park Ji-min walked through the quantum processor rooms, her scanner reading the biometric data from every human technician. The locks were programmed to remember these patterns. Once activated, only these specific humans could operate the systems. How long do you think this will last? She asked Minho quietly. Until the Galaxy Council decides to treat us like people instead of tools? 3 systems away on the frontier world of Kepler 442b, Choi Ji-woo was explaining the same maintenance procedures to her alien supervisor. She was only 26 years old and had been working at the Planetary Communication Center for 2 years. The systems need recalibration, she told Commander Valaner, a blue-skinned hegemony officer who had been assigned to oversee human technical operations on the planet. Will this affect military communications? Valaner asked. All communications will be temporarily offline during the upgrade process. Valaner frowned. The hegemony does not like communication disruptions. How long? As long as necessary to ensure proper security. Ji-woo had studied the Galaxy Council's history in university. She knew that most alien species saw humans as a useful servant race, good with technology, but not important enough to have opinions about how the galaxy should be run. The Council's resolution calling them technologically dependent servants was just making official what many aliens already believed, but Ji-woo also knew something the aliens had forgotten. Humans had not just learned to maintain alien technology. They had invented most of it. The quantum communication networks, the faster-than-light data transmission, the universal translation systems. These were human innovations that the galaxy now took for granted. As she entered the final authorization codes, Ji-woo wondered what the galaxy would look like when the aliens realized how much they depended on human creativity and skill on the mining world of Tau Ceti Prime. Engineer Song Byung-ho was having a similar conversation with his alien supervisors. The Vorthic Empire had claimed this world 2 centuries ago, but needed human technicians to keep their mining equipment connected to galactic markets. You are saying all external communications will stop? Asked Mining Director Thokvar. Temporarily. Yes, security upgrades are mandatory across all human-maintained networks, This is not acceptable. The Empire has quotas to meet. The Council expects our mineral reports every day? Song Byung-ho shrugged. I understand your concerns, but these orders come from human colonial administration. I'm sure they will coordinate with the Galaxy Council to minimize any inconvenience. What Song Byung-ho did not mention was that the mining world's entire industrial system depended on real-time communication with buyers across the galaxy. Without the networks, the Vorthik would have to store their minerals and hope someone would eventually come to buy them. The sophisticated just-in-time supply chains that kept the galactic economy running would collapse within days. Across the galaxy, the same scene was playing out on thousands of worlds. Human technicians politely informed their alien supervisors that routine maintenance required temporary communication shutdowns. Most aliens accepted these explanations without question, the way someone accepts that their car needs periodic repairs. By midday Standard Galactic Time, the first relay stations began going dark. The changes started small messages taking longer to transmit, some channels requiring additional authentication, minor delays in data processing. Admiral Yu Tae-sung of the Human Defense Fleet watched the shutdown progress from his flagship. The Soul's Light, unlike the merchant vessels and diplomatic ships, the defense fleet had its own secure communication networks that were completely separate from galactic systems. Status report, he requested. Communications Officer Lim Soo-jin checked her displays. Relay Station Alpha 7 reports security protocols activated. KEPLER 442B Communication Center is offline. Tau Ceti Prime Mining Network disconnected. We're receiving confirmation from stations across 17 sectors. Any alien responses yet? Some confusion from local supervisors, but no organized response. Most of them think it's routine maintenance, Admiral Yu smiled grimly. They'll figure it out soon enough. The alien species had grown comfortable with the idea that humans were a naturally submissive race, content to work in the background while others made the important decisions. For 3 centuries, humans had maintained this illusion quietly, building and maintaining the infrastructure that connected galactic civilization, but humans had also been quietly preparing for the day when the galaxy might decide it no longer needed them as equals. Every network they built, every system they maintained, every piece of critical infrastructure contained hidden safeguards that only humans could control. On Earth, President Chang Min-soo received reports from across human space. The shutdown was proceeding exactly as planned. Within 24 hours, every major communication relay in the galaxy would be offline. Trade networks would collapse. Military coordination would become impossible. Governments would lose contact with their colonies. The galaxy was about to learn what 3 centuries of human engineering and dedication had built. And more importantly, what happened when you tried to reduce the builders of galactic civilization to the status of property. As the last relay station reported successful protocol activation, the greatest silence in galactic history began. For the first time since humans had connected the stars, the galaxy fell quiet. Admiral Noctar of the Hegemony Fleet stared at his communication screens, watching them flicker and die one by one. His flagship, the Crushing Victory, floated in space near the Arcturus system with 47 other warships. They were supposed to be coordinating a joint military exercise with hegemony forces in 12 different star systems. Instead, his screens showed nothing but static. Communications Officer Zekmal report? Noctar commanded. The young officer's hands moved frantically over his controls. Sir, all long-range communications are down. We cannot contact fleet commands in the Vega sector, the Centauri group, or the Outer Rim Patrol. Local short-range systems are working, but nothing beyond this star system. What about the human technicians? Get them to fix it. Sir, the human technical team says their systems are undergoing security upgrades. They estimate repairs will take several days. Noctar's 4 eyes narrowed. The Hegemony war machine was built on instant communication between fleets spread across hundreds of light years. Without coordination, his mighty armada was just a collection of ships floating in empty space. Several days, the war games begin tomorrow. Fleet Command expects hourly reports. I know, sir. But the humans say the upgrades cannot be interrupted without damaging the entire network. Noctar had never liked depending on human technology. But the hegemony's own communication systems were slow and unreliable compared to the quantum networks humans had built. Like every other species in the galaxy, they had found it easier to let humans handle the technical work. Now he was beginning to understand what a mistake that had been on the Galaxy Council homeworld of Centralist Prime. Supreme Counselor Velther was discovering the same problem. The massive council chambers, which normally hosted representatives from over 200 species connected by instantaneous translation networks, contained only 37 delegates who had managed to reach the capital before communications failed. Velther was a Zalarian, member of one of the founding species that had established the Galaxy Council 4,000 years ago. He had voted for Resolution 2847 without much thought. Humans were useful servants, nothing more. The resolution simply made their status official. Counselor Grokhin, what is the status of our emergency communication systems? Velther asked. Vorthak representative checked his primitive short-range transmitter. We can communicate within the star system, but no further. Our military channels are also affected. It appears all networks that use human-maintained relay stations are non-functional. How many of our communication systems use human networks? According to our technical reports, all of them, Supreme Counselor. Velther felt a cold sensation in his stomach. All of them? Yes, sir. When humans first offered to upgrade our communication systems 3 centuries ago, their technology was so superior that we replaced everything. Our old systems were dismantled decades ago. Around the council chamber, other representatives were coming to the same realization. The Andromedans could not contact their merchant fleets. The Rigel Federation had lost touch with their military outposts. The Sirius Commonwealth could not coordinate with their mining operations. For 300 years, every major species in the galaxy had grown dependent on human-built networks. Now those networks were dark. Get me the human representative. Velther ordered. Sir, Ambassador Kimday's ship is currently in transit. We cannot contact him because ... The communications are down. Dr. Yoon Haejin sat in her laboratory on New Sol, reading reports from across human space. She was humanity's chief xenotechnologist, the person who best understood how human innovations had transformed galactic civilization. 5 years ago, she had tried to warn the Galaxy Council about their growing dependence on human systems. They had ignored her presentation completely. Dr. Yoon, we're receiving emergency transmissions from 17 different species, her assistant reported. All are requesting immediate technical assistance. What kind of assistance? They want us to restore communication networks. Some are offering payment. Others are demanding we fix the problems immediately. Dr. Yoon smiled sadly. Do any of them mention Resolution 2847I? No, sir. Most seem unaware that the Galaxy Council classified us as servants yesterday. Then send them all the same response. Human technical teams are currently implementing new security protocols in response to changes in our political status. Service restoration will depend on resolution of these political issues. Dr. Yoon had spent her entire career studying the relationship between humans and alien species. She understood something that most aliens never realized. Humans had not just learned to fix alien technology. They had revolutionized it. When humans first encountered galactic civilization, alien communication was slow and unreliable. Messages between star systems took weeks or months to transmit. Trade was limited to nearby worlds. Military coordination across interstellar distances was nearly impossible. Human quantum communication technology changed everything. Suddenly, messages could travel across the galaxy in hours instead of months. Complex supply chains became possible. Multi-system governments could actually govern their territories. The galaxy became connected in ways that had never been possible before, but the alien species had made a crucial mistake. They assumed that because humans were newer to galactic society, they were naturally inferior. They saw human technical skill as a useful service, not as the foundation of modern civilization. Captain Park Sung-min of the cargo vessel Bizen Runner was seeing the results of that mistake firsthand. His ship was traveling the Vega trade route when other vessels began sending desperate distress calls. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthic freighter Iron Claw," his communications officer reported. "They're requesting navigation assistance. Their ship's computer cannot access the Galactic Positioning Network." Park Sung-min looked at his own navigation displays. The Bizen Runner had human-built systems that were independent of the galactic networks. He could see exactly where every ship in the system was located, while the alien vessels were flying blind. "Send them our current position and heading, but remind them that we're operating under restricted communication protocols," he ordered. "Captain, what are restricted communication protocols?" "Something I just made up. We help with life-threatening emergencies, but everything else waits until our political situation is resolved." Park Sung-min watched as more alien ships appeared on his scanner, all moving slowly and carefully because they could not access the navigation networks they had depended on for centuries. Some were sending out short-range radio signals, trying to avoid collisions with other vessels they could not see. It was like watching people try to drive cars at night with their headlights turned off. "Sir, the Iron Claw is requesting detailed navigation data for the entire Vega system. Tell them we're not authorized to share that information at this time." Park Sung-min felt sorry for the alien crews, but he also felt a grim satisfaction. For 3 centuries, alien species had treated human merchant crews as space truckers, useful for moving cargo, but not important enough to have opinions about galactic politics. Now, those same aliens were learning what happened when the truckers decided to take a break. On 12 different worlds, similar scenes were playing out. Alien governments that had not spoken to their colonies for days began sending courier ships with physical messages. Military fleets that depended on coordinated tactics found themselves operating as individual ships. Trading companies watched their carefully planned supply chains collapse. The Andromedan Trade Consortium lost contact with 17 cargo fleets carrying essential supplies to Outer Rim colonies. The Rigel Defense Force could not coordinate their response to a pirate attack in the border systems. The Sirius Mining Corporation watched helplessly as their automated systems shut down without connection to central control networks. Dr. Yoon received another report from her monitoring stations. "The hegemony has declared a state of emergency. They're trying to restore communication with their military bases using old-style radio transmissions. How's that working for them? Their fastest radio signals will take 6 months to reach their furthest outposts. By the time they get a reply, it will be over a year old. And before humans built the quantum relay network? Before humans, it took the hegemony 3 years to send a message to their border territories and receive a response." The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about the difference between using technology and understanding it. For 3 centuries, alien species had enjoyed the benefits of human innovation without recognizing who had created those benefits. Now, as their civilizations began to crumble from lack of communication, they were starting to understand what humans had built for them, and more importantly, what they had lost when they decided to treat the builders as servants. 3 weeks after the Great Silence began, the galaxy was falling apart. Prime Minister Song Yoon-ji stood in her office on New Seoul, reading reports that would have been impossible to believe a month ago. The Vorthic Empire had stopped all mining operations because they could not coordinate shipments between their worlds. The Andromedan Trading Federation was facing bankruptcy as their cargo fleets drifted through space without navigation data. 2 minor wars had started when species could not negotiate with each other and assumed silence meant hostility. "Prime Minister, we have another emergency transmission," her aide announced. "This one is from the Rigel Defense Force. They're offering to pay us 50 million credits to restore communications for just 1 day. Song Yoon-ji looked at the growing pile of similar offers on her desk. The hegemony had offered territorial concessions. The Zilarians promised exclusive trading rights. The Sirius Consortium wanted to hire human technical teams at 10 times normal wages. All of them were missing the point. "Send them the standard response," she said. Human technical teams are implementing new security protocols. Service restoration requires resolution of political status issues. Her aide hesitated. Prime Minister, some of the messages are getting angry. The Vorthic ambassador called humans saboteurs and threatened military action. With what military? Their fleets can't coordinate attacks across multiple systems. They can barely find each other in the same star system. Song Yunji walked to her window and looked out at New Seoul's busy streets. Life in human space was continuing normally. Human worlds had their own communication networks that were separate from the galactic systems. Human ships could still navigate and trade with each other. Human colonies remained in contact with their governments. The difference was that humans had built backup systems and independence into everything they created. The alien species had chosen convenience over self-reliance. Prime Minister, there's something else. We're receiving a physical message delivered by courier ship. It's from the Galaxy Council. Song Yunji took the message pad and read it carefully. After 3 weeks of silence, the Galaxy Council was finally ready to talk. Prepare my ship. It's time to visit Centralist Prime. Ambassador Kang Tae-hyun had never seen the Galaxy Council chambers look so empty. The massive hall that normally hosted thousands of representatives from across the galaxy now held fewer than 40 delegates. These were the lucky few whose worlds were close enough to the capital to send ships without depending on long-range communication networks. Supreme Counselor Velther looked tired and frustrated. Around him, the other council members whispered nervously in small groups. Without their translation networks, species that spoke different languages could barely understand each other. Ambassador Kang, Velther said as the human delegation entered. Thank you for coming. We need to discuss the current technical difficulties. Kang Tae-hyun sat down calmly. He had been preparing for this moment since the crisis began. I understand the Galaxy Council wishes to address some issues with communication systems. Issues? Council member Grokhan of the Vorthic Empire stood up angrily. Your people have sabotaged galactic civilization. Trade has stopped. Governments cannot contact their colonies. This is an act of war. I'm sorry you see it that way. Kang replied politely. Human technical teams are simply implementing new security measures in response to recent political developments. What political developments? Velther asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. Resolution 2847 which classified all human citizens as technologically dependent servants. Our technical teams require clarification of their legal status before they can continue maintaining systems they designed and built. The council chamber fell silent. Finally, Velther spoke. The resolution was perhaps poorly worded. The council did not intend to suggest that humans are not valued members of galactic society. The resolution specifically states that humans are to be relocated to service worlds and placed under alien supervision. Our home worlds are to be redistributed to other species. How else should we interpret this? Council member Thekvarov. The Andromedans leaned forward. Ambassador, surely we can find a compromise. The Council is prepared to offer revised terms for human participation in galactic society. What kind of revised terms? Humans could be granted limited self-governance on a number of designated worlds. In exchange, your technical teams would resume normal operations. Kang Tae-hyun looked around the nearly empty chamber. 3 weeks without communication had reduced the mighty Galaxy Council to a handful of desperate representatives begging for help. That's a generous offer, he said. Unfortunately, it doesn't address the fundamental issue, which is the assumption that humans exist to serve other species. Your offer treats communication networks as something humans maintain for your benefit, rather than something we created and own. Velther's eyes widened. Own? Every major communication network in the galaxy was designed, built, and maintained by human engineers using human technology. The quantum relay systems, the universal translation protocols, the navigation networks. These are human innovations that we have shared freely with galactic civilization for 3 centuries. But the networks connect all worlds. They belong to everyone, do they? Who designed the quantum resonance arrays that make faster-than-light communication possible? Who solved the translation problems that let different species understand each other? Who maintains the relay stations that keep everything working? The alien representatives looked at each other uncomfortably. They had never thought about these questions before. We've been happy to share our technology freely, Khan continued. But sharing is different from being taken for granted. The galaxy. Council's resolution assumed you could simply take our worlds and force us to keep working under alien supervision. What do you want? Grokhan demanded. Kang Tae-hein stood up and activated a small projector. A holographic document appeared. In the center of the chamber, the Human Colonial Alliance proposes the following. First, immediate recognition of humans as a founding member of the Galaxy Council with full voting rights and territorial sovereignty. Second, formal acknowledgement of human intellectual property rights over all communication technologies we have developed. Third, establishment of technology sharing agreements based on mutual respect rather than assumed servitude. Founding member? Valther's voice cracked. But humans only joined galactic society 3 centuries ago. The founding species established the Council 4,000 years ago. The Council you established 4,000 years ago couldn't coordinate activities across more than a single star system. The galactic civilization that exists today was built on human technology. If you want to benefit from what we created, you need to recognize who created it. Council member Rick Sara of the Sirius Commonwealth spoke up. What if we refuse? Then the networks stay dark. Human worlds have independent communication systems. We can trade with each other and maintain our own civilization. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy wants to participate. This is blackmail. No, this is what happens when you try to reduce the builders of your civilization to the status of servants. You're free to rebuild your own communication networks using your own technology. It will only take you a few centuries to match what humans accomplished. Velther looked around the empty chamber, thinking of the thousands of representatives who couldn't attend because their ships were lost in space without navigation networks. He thought of the trade routes that had collapsed, the military fleets that couldn't coordinate, the governments that had lost contact with their colonies. How long do we have to consider your proposal? The human technical teams are prepared to wait as long as necessary. We've been patient for 3 centuries. We can be patient a little longer. And if we agree to your terms? Then the networks come back online gradually, under new agreements that recognize human contributions and rights. We return to being partners in galactic civilization instead of unpaid servants. Kang Tae-hein gathered his documents and prepared to leave. The Galaxy Council has 48 hours to make a decision. After that, human technical teams will begin implementing permanent security protocols. As the human delegation left the chamber, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. For the first time in galactic history, they were being forced to negotiate from a position of weakness. Outside in the corridor, Kang Tae-hein allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy was about to learn that the people who built civilization deserved to be treated as more than just the maintenance crew. The Galaxy Council's emergency vote took place in the smallest session in 4,000 years of galactic history. Only 43 representatives could attend, and they had to use handwritten ballots because their electronic voting systems depended on the human-built networks that remained dark. Supreme Counselor Velther read the results with a heavy heart. The motion to recognize humans as a founding species of the Galaxy Council passes by unanimous vote. All human demands are accepted. The vote was unanimous because it had to be. Every species that refused would remain cut off from galactic civilization forever. The Vorthic Empire, proud and military-focused, voted yes because their scattered fleets were useless without coordination. The Andromedan Trading Federation voted yes because half their cargo ships were lost in space. The Rigel Defense Force voted yes because pirates were attacking their undefended colonies. After 48 hours of debate, every alien species reached the same conclusion. They needed humans more than humans needed them. Counselor Wei Di-young became the first human to take a seat in the Galaxy Council's inner circle. He was a quiet man who had spent 30 years managing communication systems on the frontier worlds. Now he sat among the representatives of species that were thousands of years old, holding equal voting power with civilizations that had once considered humans to be useful servants. The restoration of galactic communications will begin immediately, Wei announced to the council. However, the new networks will operate under different agreements than before. What kind of agreements? Asked Velther. Formal treaties between the Human Colonial Alliance and each species that wishes to use our communication technology. These treaties will include technology sharing provisions, territorial recognition, and respect for intellectual property rights. Chief Engineer Lim Soo-jin stood in the control room of Relay Station Alpha 7, watching her screens come back to life for the first time in 3 weeks. But the restoration was not like flipping a switch. Each system required careful negotiation and new security protocols. Status report on the Vega sector, she requested. The Andromedan government has signed the technology sharing treaty. We're bringing their trading networks back online now. Estimated completion time, 6 hours. What? About the Vorthik mining operations on Tau Ceti? The Vorthik Empire is still refusing to sign formal agreements. Their worlds remain offline. Soo-jin nodded. This was exactly what she had expected. Some alien species would adapt quickly to the new reality. Others would resist until the consequences became unbearable. The Vorthik Empire had been one of the most vocal opponents of human equality. Their representatives had called humans uppity servants and threatened military action. Now, their mining worlds sat in isolation while their economy collapsed. Engineer Soo-jin were receiving a transmission from Vorthak Mining Director Thokvar. Her communications officer reported, "Put him through." The Vorthik appeared on screen, his reptilian features showing obvious stress. Behind him, Soo-jin could see mining equipment sitting idle. Human engineer, my worlds have been without communication for 3 weeks. My workers cannot contact their families. My buyers cannot place orders. This situation must end immediately. Director Thukvar, I understand your frustration. Human technical teams are prepared to restore your communications as soon as your government signs the new technology sharing agreement. The Vorthik Empire does not negotiate with servants. Then I'm afraid your communications will remain offline. We're only providing service to species that recognize our legal status and intellectual property rights. This is intolerable. The Empire demands immediate restoration of all networks. Soo-jin looked at him calmly. Director, you're welcome to build your own communication networks using your own technology. We're not stopping you from developing independent systems. Thokvar's anger faded as he realized what she was saying. The Vorthak had never developed advanced communication technology because humans had always provided it for them. Building their own networks from scratch would take decades, maybe centuries. Double quotes. How long would it take us to create our own systems? Your current technology level? Probably about 200 years to match what we built for you. Of course, you'd need to train engineers and scientists first. That might add another century or two. The transmission ended abruptly. Soo-jin knew that within hours, pressure from Vorthik mining companies and military commanders would force their government to reconsider. Captain Oh Hyun-woo commanded the humanitarian vessel Soul's Hope, one of 12 ships dispatched to help alien colonies that were suffering from the communication blackout. His current mission was particularly satisfying. Captain, we're approaching the Vorthak colony on Rigel 7, his navigator reported. The colony has been without supply ships for 3 weeks. They're requesting emergency food and medical supplies? What's the status of their government's negotiations with the Human Colonial Alliance? The Vorthik Empire is still refusing to sign technology-sharing agreements. Then we proceed with humanitarian aid only. No restoration of communication networks until their government changes its position. Oh, Hyun-woo had volunteered for this mission because he remembered working under Vorthik supervision 5 years ago. The alien overseers had treated human engineers like smart animals, useful, but not worthy of respect or consideration. Now those same Vorthak were depending on human generosity to survive. The Soul's hope docked with the colony's supply station. Colonial Administrator Grateful met them at the airlock, his usual arrogance replaced by desperate gratitude. Captain O, thank you for coming. We have over 50,000 colonists here, including families with young children. Our food supplies ran out yesterday. We're happy to provide emergency humanitarian aid. My crew will begin transferring supplies immediately. Can you also restore our communication systems? We haven't been able to contact our families on the homeworld for weeks. I'm sorry, but communication system restoration requires a signed technology sharing agreement between your government and the Human Colonial Alliance. But surely you can make an exception for humanitarian reasons? Oh, Haiyan Wu looked at the Vorthak administrator with the same patient expression he had used when Grakthul dismissed human concerns as irrelevant servant chatter. Communication networks are complex systems that require ongoing maintenance and support. We can only provide that level of service to governments that formally recognize our technical expertise and legal rights. This is ridiculous. You're holding our people hostage. Administrator, we're providing food, medicine, and emergency supplies free of charge. We're not obligated to provide communication services to governments that classify us as servants. As the Soul's hope departed the colony, Oh Haiyan Wu received a message from Admiral Yu Tae-sung. Similar scenes were playing out across Vorthak space. Colonies begging for help while their government refused to negotiate. Military outposts isolated from command structure. Mining operations shut down without buyers. Captain O, how long do you estimate before the Vorthak Empire changes its position? Based on what I'm seeing out here, maybe another week. Their outer colonies are getting desperate, and their military can't coordinate defensive operations. Dr. Bae Min-young had been appointed as humanity's first Minister of Technological Affairs, a position that didn't exist until the galaxy realized how much they depended on human innovation. Her office on New Seoul received hundreds of requests, every day from alien governments wanting to restore their networks. Minister Bae, the Sirius Commonwealth has signed the Technology Sharing Agreement, her assistant reported. They're requesting immediate restoration of their financial networks. Approved. What about the hegemony? They've signed as well? But they're requesting priority restoration of military communications over civilian systems. Denied. The new agreements specify that civilian communications get equal priority with military systems. No species gets to treat their military as more important than their people's ability to communicate with family. This was one of the key changes in the new system. Under the old arrangements, alien governments had prioritized military and government communications while treating civilian networks as secondary. The new agreements required equal treatment for all users. Minister, we're also receiving requests from 17 species that want to license human technology for their own networks. Interesting. What kind of licensing agreements are they proposing? They want to build independent systems using human designs. Some are offering substantial payments for the technology licenses. Bae Min-young smiled. This was exactly what she had hoped would happen. Instead of depending entirely on human-maintained networks, some species were choosing to develop their own capabilities based on human innovations. Prepare standard licensing agreements. We'll share the technology freely, but with requirements for ongoing cooperation and mutual respect. The galaxy was learning a new way of doing business. Instead of assuming that humans would always be available to fix their problems, alien species were starting to invest in their own technical capabilities. On Centralis Prime, Supreme Counselor Velther watched his communication screens flicker back to life as more species signed agreements with the Human Colonial Alliance. The process was slow and sometimes frustrating, but the galaxy was gradually reconnecting. Counselor Velther, the Vorthak Empire has requested an emergency session to discuss their communication status, his aide reported. Have they signed the Human Technology Sharing Agreement? No, sir. They're asking the Council to pressure humans into restoring their networks without signing. Tell them the Council has no authority over human technical decisions. If they want their communications restored, they need to negotiate directly with the Human Colonial Alliance. 6 months ago, Velther could have ordered humans to fix any technical problem in the galaxy. Now he had to admit that humans controlled technology that was essential to galactic civilization. The balance of power had shifted permanently. Species that wanted to participate in galactic society had to recognize human contributions and rights. Those that refused to adapt would remain isolated until they changed their minds. As more networks came online each day, the galaxy was discovering that the new system worked better than the old one. With formal agreements and mutual respect, both humans and aliens were more willing to cooperate and share innovations. The age of taking human contributions for granted was over. The age of true partnership was beginning. 6 months after the Great Silence ended, President Yu Jin-seok of the Human Colonial Alliance stood before the largest Galaxy Council session in history. The great chambers on Centralist Prime were filled with representatives from over 300 species, all connected by communication networks that everyone now understood were built and maintained through human expertise. "Friends and colleagues," President Yu began, his words translated instantly into hundreds of languages through systems that had once been taken for granted. 6 months ago, many of you saw humans as useful servants who happened to be good with technology. Today, we gather as equals in a galaxy that is more connected and more cooperative than ever before. The audience listened carefully. Every species present had signed technology-sharing agreements with humanity. Even the Vorthek Empire had eventually abandoned their stubborn resistance when their military commanders realized they could not defend their territory without communication networks. "We never wanted to rule the galaxy," President Yu continued. "We only wanted to belong to it. We wanted our contributions to be recognized and our people to be treated with dignity. The events of the past months have shown us that cooperation works better than domination for everyone involved." In the audience, Supreme Counselor Velther nodded thoughtfully. The Zilarian leader had learned more about galactic civilization in the past 6 months than in his previous 50 years of service. When humans shut down the networks, he had been forced to really understand how his society functioned for the first time. The new galaxy council chambers were themselves a symbol of the changes. Instead of the old system where founding species sat in privileged positions while newer members were relegated to outer circles, all representatives now sat at the same level. Human engineers had redesigned the translation networks to ensure that every voice could be heard equally clearly. "The communication networks that connect our worlds today are stronger and more reliable than ever before," President Yu announced. "But they are also more fair. No species receives priority treatment over others. Military communications are not considered more important than a parent calling their child on another world." Commander Shin Realm sat in the audience wearing the uniform of the first mixed species Deep Space Exploration Force. Her crew included volunteers from 12 different civilizations, all working together on humanity's most ambitious project yet, mapping the unexplored regions beyond the galaxy's outer rim. The expedition had been impossible under the old system. Different species used incompatible technologies and refused to share critical information with each other. Now, with standardized human-designed communication protocols and formal cooperation agreements, species that have been rivals for centuries were working as partners. "Commander Shin, are your crews ready for departure?" President Yu asked. Shin Realm stood up. "Mr. President, the Deep Space Expedition Fleet is fully prepared. We have ships and crew members from the Human Colonial Alliance, the Andromedan Federation, the Rigel Commonwealth, the Sirius Mining Consortium, and 8 other species. For the first time in galactic history, we're exploring space together. Instead of competing for territory," the audience applauded. This kind of cooperation would have been unthinkable before the Great Silence forced everyone to reconsider their relationships. After the council session, Ambassador Kim Dae walked through the corridors of the government complex with Dr. Yoon Hae-jin. Both of them remembered when humans were not even allowed in these buildings except as technical support staff. Dr. Yoon, your predictions about galactic society were more accurate than anyone realized, Kim Dae said. I wish I had been wrong. I never wanted to see the galaxy go through the chaos of the past months. But look at what came out of it. Species that barely spoke to each other before are now collaborating on research projects. The Vorthak and the Andromedans are sharing mining technology. The Rigel Defense Force is training alongside hegemony fleets. Dr. Yoon smiled. It's amazing what happens when people are forced to see each other as equals instead of competitors or servants. They paused at a viewing window that looked out over the capital city. Alien and human workers were collaborating on construction projects using combined technologies that were more advanced than anything either group could have created alone. The galaxy learned something important, Dr. Yoon observed. Civilization isn't built by the strongest species or the oldest species. It's built by people who are willing to connect others and share what they know. On New Seoul Station, engineer Park So-young monitored the data flows that connected thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The network she helped maintain carried more than just messages now. They carried the promise that every civilization would be treated with respect. Her communication screen showed the daily routine of galactic society. Trading companies coordinating shipments between star systems. Families talking to relatives on distant colonies. Scientists sharing research. Data across species boundaries. Military forces coordinating peaceful joint exercises instead of preparing for war. Engineer Park, we're receiving a priority message from the Vorthak mining world on Tau Ceti, her assistant reported. So-young remembered that world. It had been one of the last to come back online after the Vorthak government finally signed cooperation agreements with humanity. What's the message? They're thanking us for the new communication upgrades. Their workers can now video call their families on other worlds instead of just sending text messages. So-young smiled. Under the old system, the Vorthak had only cared about industrial communications. Personal messages for workers were considered unimportant. The new agreements required equal access for all users, which meant ordinary people could stay in touch with their loved ones across interstellar distances. Any other priority messages? The Andromedan Trade Federation wants to discuss expanding the quantum relay network to reach 3 new star systems. They're planning to explore. Schedule a technical consultation meeting. Make sure they understand. This will require a formal expansion to our cooperation agreement. This was how things worked now. Instead of aliens demanding that humans fix their problems, they requested consultations and negotiated expansions to existing agreements. Both sides benefited and both sides had a voice in decisions. Captain Lee Junho commanded the Soul's Light, now serving as flagship for the Human Defense Fleet's new mission. Instead of just protecting human worlds, they were part of a galaxy-wide peacekeeping force that included ships from dozens of species. Captain, we're approaching the disputed border between hegemony and Vorthak territory, his navigator reported. Both sides are requesting mediation assistance. What's the nature of the dispute? A mining rights disagreement. Under the old system, this would probably have led to military conflict. Now they're asking for peaceful arbitration. Lee Junho had seen 3 such disputes in the past month. The new communication networks made negotiation easier than fighting, and the mixed species peacekeeping force meant that no single group could dominate the mediation process. Signal both fleets that we're prepared to facilitate discussions. An hour later, representatives from both species were meeting aboard the Soul's Light, using human translation technology to communicate clearly with each other. What would have been a 3-month military standoff was resolved in a single day of negotiation. Dr. Bae Min-young received her daily report on technology sharing programs across the galaxy. The numbers were impressive. 43 species were now developing their own communication networks using licensed human technology. 17 others were collaborating with human engineers on joint research projects. Minister Bae, the Sirius Commonwealth has completed their independent relay network, her assistant reported. They're requesting certification to connect it with the main galactic system. Excellent. schedule an inspection team to verify compatibility, and security standards. This was what Bay had hoped for from the beginning. Instead of the galaxy depending entirely on human-maintained networks, different species were developing their own technical capabilities while maintaining cooperation and shared standards. What about the joint research projects? The Andromedan Human Quantum Physics Collaboration has made a breakthrough in faster-than-light communication. The new technology could reduce transmission delays by 60%. And they're sharing the research with everyone? According to the cooperation agreement, yes. All participating species will have access to the improved technology. They smiled. The old system had encouraged secrecy and competition. The new system rewarded cooperation and sharing, which led to faster innovation and better technology for everyone. On Earth, in the small town where Ambassador Kimday had grown up, children were learning about galactic history in school. But the textbooks had been rewritten to reflect the new understanding of how civilization developed. Teacher Jung Mina explained to her students, for a long time, people thought that civilization was built by whoever was strongest or oldest. But we learned that real civilization is built by people who help others connect and communicate. One student raised her hand. Teacher Jung, why didn't the aliens understand that humans were important? Because they made the mistake of thinking that people who do technical work are less important than people who make political decisions. They forgot that someone has to build and maintain the systems that make society work. Will that happen again? Not if we remember the lesson. Every person who contributes to society deserves respect and recognition, whether they're leaders or engineers, politicians or teachers, farmers or scientists. The galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way, but it had learned it well. As the networks hummed with the voices of 1,000 worlds, every message carried the promise that no civilization would ever again be dismissed as unimportant. The age of cooperation had begun, built on the simple human truth that everyone deserves to be heard and respected. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but its greatest strength lay in the connections between its people, connections that humans had built and that everyone now worked together to maintain. In the end, the Galaxy Council had not collapsed when humans closed every channel. It had been reborn as something better, a true community of equals among the stars.